Good morning, Celina. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you, Melanie?
I'm pretty good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me this morning on the YouTube video for Calgary Alternative Support Services.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks. So Celina, for all of you who are new to this YouTube video, Celina is a little bit new to our organization. She's been there for how many months?
Just 3 as of last week.
3 months already. Celina is the Intake and Communications Coordinator for the Calgary Alternative Employment Services side of CAES.
Mhm.
And I am so glad you've joined us today because I am so excited to talk with you about the new blog that you've written. Can you give us just a little summary of the blog that you've written for CAES?
Absolutely. Really, the reason I wrote it, I was thinking a lot about, I was kind of in a funk with my daily routine, with my to-do list, and I was looking for some inspiration online. And I was looking at, productive morning routines, early morning routines for success. And I kind of got thinking about that and kind of the general pressure in society, I think, to always be accomplishing more and more, doing more and more, being the most productive you can be throughout the day. Um, and I think reflecting on that got me thinking, we place so much value on what we do, and it seems that there's much less value placed on who we are and how we show up in the world. Um, so really, it was kind of inspired by that. I put a few tips in there for things that I've been trying to shift that focus in myself, that maybe we can chat a bit later about. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's all recognizing the immense pressure, I think, that we have in society to measure up to what everyone else is doing, I think is kind of a big thing.
Yeah. Could you identify some examples of, this idea of society's pressure for people to produce, to achieve, to do stuff, to maybe attain a certain status in society? Are there some examples that come to mind?
Well, I think first of all, what it stems from is I think it's both an internal and external thing going on. We look to these people, we admire and praise people who are accomplishing so much,
Right.
and through that, I think we're placing value on that, and other people are seeing that that's valued. And I think when we are giving people so much affirmation for what they're doing, the message that we're receiving is, if I want that same affirmation, I
Yes.
need to do just as much.
Yes.
So really, it's kind of a relational thing, I think, in my mind, is, we want to be recognized and valued. And if that's what we need to do to be valued, then that's what we try for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There seems to me to be a danger in, for example, me looking at somebody like on TV, or me looking at somebody, the top supervisor of my job, or
Mm-hmm.
me looking at somebody in a magazine and thinking, oh, I want to be just like that. And then having that pressure, because if I want to be valued in my community, like I have this pressure from society to do the same things as, like you said, these people that are very popular, very respected in our community. And I wonder, Celina, do you think that there might be some mental health um, problems that come up when people try to be exactly like someone else who's very popular?
Absolutely. I think that first of all, it can have a pretty big impact on your self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you're the expectations you're setting for yourself are, based on what you're seeing other people do.
Yeah.
And then if you're continually in your mind falling short, you're not recognizing, um, any growth or movement in yourself, right? Because you're never meeting that level. So I think that over time you can end up losing a lot of motivation, feeling really down on yourself, maybe even some shame for not, you know, feeling like you're enough or doing enough or being enough.
Yeah, I agree totally with that, Celina. Like it's just not possible for me to be like that person on TV, or even, you know, like you as a coworker. Let's say I really admire you and I'm in awe of all the strengths that you have. For me to try to be like you is not respecting my unique qualities and skills. But there is that pressure out there to be like a certain image that we see on TV, in the books, in the magazines.
Yeah, and that comparison, I think, just is never going to end
Yeah.
in you feeling positive in any way. I do see that there can be a lot of value maybe in comparison in comparing yourself to who you were yesterday, who you were before. You know,
Yes.
how have you grown even just a little bit today? And you can see that there's going to be a lot more moments where you can feel like you've accomplished something when you're
Yes.
just comparing yourself to how you were before. As
Right.
simple as that. It doesn't need to be anything more than that.
I love that. Don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to who you were the day before, the month before, the year before.
Mm-hmm.
That's comparing apples to apples, isn't it?
Yeah, and then I think you would see then that there you have grown so much. There's a lot more that you've accomplished. Um,
That's right.
but I think when you're comparing so much further above in your eyes, then it can take a toll when you're never reaching that level.
Yeah. And so let's get into what your blog told us about being having a to-do list versus having another two lists. So the to-do list sounds like there's some problems within it, that relates to, like you said, trying to perfect, trying to achieve, trying to produce, trying to be like other people.
Mm-hmm.
And you've found an alternative to that. Let's talk about that for a while.
Yeah. So typically, most of my days start with my to-do list, putting down everything that I need to get done that day. Um, and right off the bat, I feel a little overwhelmed, a little stressed out, a
Yeah.
little like I need to be like a robot that just goes and goes and goes and gets everything done.
Yeah.
Um, but something that I've been trying, that I read about in my search for productivity routines, was also creating a to be list and a to feel list for my day.
Ah.
Yeah. So just a few things, maybe, I don't know, I do like 3. So maybe my to be list is going to focus on how I want to show up throughout the day as I'm doing the things I need to do. How
Yeah.
do I want to interact with people? What qualities of myself do I want to show? And
Mm-hmm.
they're qualities that I already feel I have, but I'd like to focus on, because sometimes when I'm in that go, go, go mode, I'm not as aware of how I'm interacting with people and how they're
Yes.
perceiving me, and what that's doing to them. Maybe I'm coming across really short or stressed out, or,
Right.
so we don't know how that's landing if we're not kind of aware.
Yeah.
So some things I have put are, being patient that day. I want to be patient that day, or I want to be a good listener. So that kind of thing. How I want to interact with people, the personal characteristics that I want to develop in myself.
You know, Celina, that to be list really resonates with me because we do a lot of mindfulness in counseling, but also on this YouTube video. And, you know, putting up the intention for the day, and first thing in the morning, putting up that intention to be more grateful throughout my day, to be more compassionate throughout my day, to be more curious in the
Mm.
day, seems to me a very mindful approach, so that I'm not just, like you said, getting through my day, check, 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 done, done, done. At the end of the day, I feel exhausted. Okay, but thank goodness I got all that done. But I've lost those moments of connection with myself and with
Mhm.
others because I haven't focused on creating, like you said, that compassion within the relationship, or with even just within the interactions that I've had to have that day. It doesn't have to be, it could be with just a grocery clerk, but having compassion for, wow, look at this grocery clerk who continues to work behind the plexiglass with a mask on 8 hours a day, just so that I can come and buy my groceries during the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you're aware of how you're trying to show up, you end up being a little more aware of the people on the receiving end of that. You
Yes.
know, what kind of impact you're making, or what's going on for them.
Yes.
You know, what is their day looking like?
And it reminds me of, when all is said and done, what will it matter that I got my to-do list done? Or will it matter the relationships that I made with people, the way I treated people, and the way people saw me as a human being?
Absolutely. And I think that if we kind of as a society could place a little more value on our relationships, on our interactions, even just on our uniqueness and individuality, I think, you
Yes.
know, really paying attention to who we are as a person and what we have to offer uniquely, instead of fitting into that someone else's shoes,
Yeah.
you know.
Sorry, I just lost my screen.
No,
We had one more list.
yeah, it was the to feel list. And I find that one is really important to me, because I can be somewhat of a perfectionist. I can be a little hard on myself. So I tend to get stressed out by my to-do list. I see all of that and I feel like it's insurmountable for that day. And then those kind of negative feelings can be overwhelming. So I find that if I make space to feel other emotions, to shift my focus, you
Okay.
know, maybe today I want to feel really connected, you know, to my family, to my partner, to a friend. You know, I can make space to foster that connection with them, to set
Yeah.
aside time for that, and that can boost my mood. It can make me feel better about myself and feel that value in that relationship, versus just my value coming from what did I do today, you know.
Right. So actually, maybe that's where the gratitude belongs, is in the feel list. I
Yeah,
want to feel
gratitude can be
grateful.
lovely. Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think setting aside time, because if you write this list down, when you're ticking off your list, if it's right there, you're going to have that reminder. Okay,
Yeah.
there's also this other list that I need to pay attention to. You
Yeah.
know, how can I feel grateful today? Do I need to take a moment to think about the wonderful things in my life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, like when I think about coming up to this end of the year season that is so normally filled with, like you said, to-do lists, obligations, shoulds. I don't want to go to the agency party, but I feel obligated to. Everyone's expecting me to be there. Or, I don't even feel like I want to make this big dinner or make this big hoopla, but I feel like I should because I always have, or because people are counting on me. And so the way I see it this year is that the coronavirus has actually made that pretty difficult to do anyways,
Mm-hmm.
because we're not allowed to gather. We're not allowed to, to travel outside of our cohorts. Many of the shops and stores are just not accessible or available right now. So there's been a lot of changes for people. So that to-do list, I think, has shrunk anyways.
Yeah.
People might be left with I don't even know what to do because my to-do list isn't as big as it used to be. The rituals, the traditions that I usually follow aren't available to me. So they might feel lost, might feel confused.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard some people just say, like for the people who follow Christmas, which not everybody does, but I've heard some people who follow Christmas say there is no Christmas, it's been canceled, giving up.
Yeah, that defeat because things have changed and we've never experienced something like this. We don't know what to do. And it feels like all of the things that made Christmas Christmas, or the holiday have been taken away from us.
Yes, exactly. And I think that in that, so the coronavirus has caused a lot of stress that has restricted us in many, many ways. But I think that also perhaps that is a gift of the coronavirus. It's taken away our to-do list. which may, for some folks who choose, gives you space and time to look at those other two things that you've accentuated.
Yes, I totally agree on that. If we can take a step back from that feeling of, I guess could be loss in a lot of ways of
Yeah.
losing Christmas, we can recognize that we have that space and time to reflect, to think about, okay, if we can't do this Christmas, how do we want to be? How do we want to feel? How can we still um, foster that connection and positivity coming to the end of the year and starting a new year? It's been a difficult year for
Yes.
everyone, I would say.
Yes.
So reflecting how can we um, reconnect, I think, with who we are, how we want to be.
Yeah. I think that's actually, even more important this year. It's been such a tough year that I think we would benefit from some healing before we move into the next. So having that space and time to really focus on, how do I want to feel and how do I want to be? For me personally, how I want to feel this last month of 2020 is peaceful, calm. I don't want to feel afraid anymore. I don't want to feel confused or discombobulated. I want to
Yeah,
go
I
into the
definitely resonate with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go into the next year feeling more assured, you know, hopeful is another way that I want to feel.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think after such a challenging year, there's been a lot of resilience. I think people have tackled a lot of things that they maybe thought they couldn't, or, you know, they never knew that they had that strength to face those things. But we have,
Truly.
so I think that's something we can celebrate as well, is how resilient we've been,
Yeah.
and have that self-assurance, and oh, we can face a lot as humans, we can
Yes.
tackle a lot. And I also resonate with feeling peace as well. It's definitely been a high stress year, a lot of being in that kind of emergency flight or fight mode for
Yes.
a lot of the year. So
Yeah.
having that sense of calm, I think, is much needed.
Yeah. And it brings to mind for me, I think, that you're talking about the resiliency that we've shown all year, but I think that it could be something that we put on our to be list every day for the next 30, to be resilient every day, because we don't know what more changes are coming up,
Mm-hmm.
whether we're going to hear about more people in our circle who have fallen sick. We don't know any, so being resilient, being courageous, being generous to other people during this time of um, communal or collective suffering
Mm-hmm.
might be something that we put on our list every single morning for this next little while.
For sure. I mean, the year's coming to an end, but we don't know like what the future holds with coronavirus. It
Yeah,
doesn't mean coronavirus is coming to an end. So
that's
yeah,
right. Yeah.
I think reflecting on how we've managed this year and how we can move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, this conversation brings hope and brings an idea for me of what I can hold on to as I end this year and enter into the next. I don't feel quite as lost now that you've let me know about these different strategies for getting through. Thank you very much for bringing those to mind for all of us.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm happy to hear that, and I hope that other people can reflect on their year and how they want to move forward. I know it's definitely benefited me a lot and made me feel a bit more calm, and like things are going to be okay, and I can breathe for a little while.
Yeah. And human beings, we are purposeful human beings. We like to have a goal. We like to have a purpose, which I think is what connects us to that to-do list so quickly and so tightly. But this gives us another purpose, in a different way, to become the people. I liked what you said in your blog about, instead of being human doings, this allows us to be human beings. Do you have any more to say
Mm.
about that?
I think for me, that's all about that value we're placing on the doing. I think human beings are so much more complex than just what they do. They're their emotions, they're how their physical body is feeling, their social relationships. Like, we're very complicated as human beings, and there's a lot that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. So I think just having that awareness of who you are as you go about what you're doing, you know, I think that's important.
I do too. I think that's an amazing thing. And I think, like I said, sometimes it's hard for me to see the blessings of coronavirus. It's hard for me to see the opportunities that this pandemic has opened up for me personally. But I think that this is one of them, is that by allowing me more space and time this season, as I round up or wrap up 2020 and go into 2021, that there's this opportunity for me to really focus in on my feelings and who I want, the qualities, the qualities that I want to exude and share with others, as well as myself, and to not worry about all the, for other lack of a better word, pomp and circumstance of the traditions and the end of the year rituals.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Celina, for sharing your blog and your ideas and giving us some, some different strategies and ways to think about the end of this year. And thank you so much for bringing that to our attention on this YouTube, for all of us to think about and to really, look at ways to implement that in our daily life.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, me too, Celina. Have a wonderful end of the year. We'll talk soon.
You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.